Testing, 1, 2, 3. Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to solve some puzzles over on chess.com. If you don't solve puzzles, I've been told that it's a really good way to recognize tactical positions on the board. I think it's helping me in games, but as you know, if you've been following me for some time, that I am struggling with chess. And I think part of it is that the great majority of chess players that are online at any given time are getting better. And of course, part of it might be that I don't have that much time that I can spend studying chess every day. And part of it might just be that my IQ is not as high as I thought it was. But anyway, I am going to try to solve some puzzles. I'm going to click puzzles. You'll see that 1738 is my current rating in puzzles, not in anything else. The first thing I look for in puzzles is checks, and then I look for captures, then I look for threats. Here I do have a couple of checks. Queen to e5 check. Looks like we would, no, we wouldn't trade queens because this pawn is pinned, so that's not a good idea. But I do have this check down here. Oh, that's checkmate. Really? Because my bishop cuts off those squares, and my queen would cut off those, and they can't block. That puzzle's rated 1748. It was made in one. Okay. Oh, the theme was passed pawns. That's what the theme is. Can you see that? Theme, passed pawns. I mean, technically my A pawn is a passed pawn because there's no pawn in front of it and there's no pawn on the adjacent file. But that is not one of the themes of this puzzle. I'm going to click thumbs down on that theme. As you know, if you've been watching my videos for some time, I do get distracted by the themes listed on the puzzles. I tried to stop paying attention to it and it didn't work. Next. Okay, the king has moved out of check. It had a couple of other options, but it chose this one and that apparently was not good. I wonder if it's because I can check again here. I think that's it. Because the rook's protected, so the king can't go there. It can't go back to where it was. It won't be able to go here or forward because of my bishop. Won't be able to block because pawns can't move that far. It'll have to go over here and then that. No, that won't be mate because of the bishop. What is it? Check. Has to go there. That seems very forcing, so I like it for that reason. Wait. I think then I would check with my rook on h7. It would be protected by the bishop. So even though they could take back with their rook, I would deliver the checkmate with my other rook. Okay, I'm going to try that. There's no theme listed for that one. I am going to click checkmate in 3. That was 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Kind of surprised I saw that. I'm not normally good at seeing rook sacrifices. Okay, here we do have some checks, but I don't think either one of those is very good. Now let's see. If we check here with the bishop, their king could capture back. Then our queens would be facing each other. I mean, that would be the only legal move, not can capture back, but the king would be forced to capture the bishop. But their queen would still be defended by the rook, so I couldn't take it just then. I would have a follow-up check, though, with the knight, but of course, either one of those, their pawns could capture, so I don't know that that's it. Now, it's too bad I don't have two bishops here, because I would like to capture this bishop and then still have a bishop that could check over here. Because if I could check and move that king out, and then get that bishop so that the rook moved forward, the queen would be undefended. But I can't get both of those. So there must be something else. Now, if I capture the bishop first, they can take my queen, and then I'll take back, and then they'll get my bishop. So I don't think that's good. Wait, I do have another check over here. That's why you look for multiple checks. I think that might be it, because the king would not be able to get out of check because my bishop is covering that square. I think their only legal move would be to block with the queen. No, that's not their only legal move. For a second, that was looking really good because I thought their only legal move would be to block with the queen. I would check over here, and when they took, then I would get their queen, but they wouldn't have to take. They wouldn't have to take. Because if I checked here and they did block with the queen, which I realized they don't have to, and I went here, then they could just move the king over. But if they moved the king over, I could bring my rook right here, and the queen would be pinned to it. Okay, so let's follow this check out, but they don't have to block with the queen. They could block with the knight. What if they block with the knight? I could take it, and if they took back, I could take that too, and I would have picked up 2 pieces for the bishop. I'm going to try it. Well, they blocked with the queen. Okay. Well, see, all that other stuff that I said then doesn't make any difference because now I can remove the defender of the queen and just win the queen outright, right? Like I said before, if they take, I'll win their queen outright. If they move behind the queen, I bring this rook over, which will be protected by my queen, and their queen will be pinned. Well, that one worked out kind of like I thought it would when I first saw it. So I guess my first instinct was right, but I had to consider all the other options just in case. And it looked like no matter what they did, I would at least come out a piece ahead or up in exchange. So that worked. Next. Okay, my opponent is up a pawn. They have an extra pawn. One of those is an extra pawn. I don't know which one counts as the extra pawn, but all of the pawns are passed pawns. So I won't be too mad if that's the theme of this puzzle. Now I do have some checks. I think that one's really bad because when they take, I'm in check. And then I would take the pawn and I just would have lost my queen. I have a check on e8. Their king would not be able to go backward because my rook's cutting off that entire rank. It could go sideways to f4, in which case then I could check right here with my queen protected by my rook. And when they moved out of check, I would win their rook. Okay, so what's the other option? They could block with their queen. And if they blocked with their queen, then I would check from behind. And if they moved out of check, I would take their queen. And if they took my rook, then I would get their queen. Right? That's the only thing that looks good to me. I think those are my only two checks. I'm not counting this one because that one just looks bad. I don't have any captures. Okay, I'm going to try queen to e8 check. They did block with the queen, so I will check from behind with the rook and then win their queen. Okay, oh, the theme was passed pawns. I'm going to leave it this time just because there are 3 passed pawns on the board, and that was maybe not the theme of the puzzle. Decoy deflection, I think removing the defender might have been, but decoy deflection, sure, I guess that counts. Okay, I'm not an expert on themes. I just know some of them are wrong. I'm going to click the green button that no longer says next puzzle. It just has an arrow on it, but when you hover over it, it does say next puzzle. I only mention that because I used to say next puzzle every time, and then I caught myself realizing, of course, it's the next puzzle. I do have some checks here, but I don't think this one's not any good. I'm pretty sure the king, the king would just capture back. I can't sneak in here with this check because their knight is still guarding that square. Likewise, this check isn't any good, I don't think, because their king would capture it, and then I wouldn't have a follow-up check. There's one more check, which is here, but again, I don't think that's any good. The only other check is knight to f2 check, which is a fork of their king and queen, but their knight is guarding that square. So if their knight takes, then I can take with my knight. Did I say knight? If I check here and they capture with their knight, I can capture with my queen, but that's not check. And my opponent still has 2 rooks and a queen, whereas I have a queen and a rook and a bishop. But from there, my queen would be threatening checkmate, so they would have to respond to that. Keeping in mind the 2 knights would be off the board at that point. So my queen here would be, on f2, would be threatening checkmate on g2. They wouldn't try to stop that here, queen to f1, because I could take it with my bishop, but they could stop it by playing queen to g1. And then what would I have? I could take this pawn at that point. It would be undefended, and I would be threatening this check here on f3. That all seems really complicated, and I don't see anything else. There aren't any captures other than the ones I just mentioned, I don't think. There's this one. Okay, that's one I didn't see, but that one looks pretty bad. Wait, does it? If they took with the queen, then I would have this fork with my knight. But that pawn's defending that square, so I would still be down. I would still be down material. Plus, they wouldn't have to take there with their queen in the first place. They could take with their pawn first, and then I would have the fork. They would have to get out of check, and I would win their queen, but then they would take back with their rook, and I would have a bishop and a rook to their 2 rooks left. Sometimes there's another clue or hint in the puzzle setup, such as an undefended piece. For example, right now their A rook is undefended, but I can't threaten it that I can see in any way. Moving my queen there, or like where can I threaten that rook from? I can't. So sometimes an undefended piece sitting out by itself is the theme, especially if it's just moved. But I don't think that's the case here. Here it looks like that's just the blunder, that they should have done something else with that. Maybe brought it back down here because that pawn's going to come into play here in just a little bit. I don't know. And we might fail this puzzle, but I am going to play knight to f2 check, assuming that they'll take back with their knight. Then I'll take with my queen threatening mate. They'll have to bring their queen over to g1 to protect against mate, which will leave their e-pawn undefended, and I'll have a passed pawn at that point. Well, let's find out. Oh, that was it. Well, then it has to be this. Pretty sure. Okay, they did what I thought. Okay. It has to be that, right? It has to be taking the e-pawn. What else is there? Because it's not taking the f-pawn, because then I lose my queen. And it's not going here now, because then I'd lose both of these pieces for their queen. So it's got to be taking the e-pawn. I'm guessing the puzzle's going to keep going at that point. For example, are they going to try to threaten me with the rook then? Or get behind? No, that they wouldn't do that. I'm going to take the e-pawn, and if that's wrong, that means I've misunderstood the entire point of this puzzle. Wait, it didn't keep going. I expected it to keep going, but it didn't. I'm glad I got it right, but I'm still not sure. The theme says attacking castled king and vulnerable king. Okay, that's true. I did attack the castled king, and it does appear to be somewhat vulnerable. I think maybe I'm threatening mate here because of this pawn now being undefended. That would be a check, but they get another move. Can't they? They could bring this rook here to defend the f-pawn. I guess then I could block the defense of that by pushing my d-pawn, and then if they took the d-pawn, I would take the rook. Because I'm still down slightly on material here. We're even on pawns, and I'm down in exchange. But I guess it's just that my king is safe and theirs not. Okay. I'm glad I got it right. I'm not entirely convinced that I understand this one. Probably one of you very smart people will tell me in the comments that yes, it is because you have such a strong mate threat or something like that. Or no, it's because of something else entirely. Well, let's look for checks. The queen capturing on g6 is check. I mean, it is check, but they're just going to take back, right? Wait, is it that? That's not their only legal move. But if they take back, then I would have check in the corner, and their only legal move would be to come up, and then I would have check here with my other rook. Oh, but then they could escape. Okay, so maybe it's not that then. Also, taking with the pawn isn't their only legal move. They could just get out of check, or they could block the check with the rook. Yeah, there would be this check. Come forward. Then I could check with the pawn, which they would have to take. Then I could check with my other rook. Now, if they came forward at that point, I could come back and win their queen. But that seems really complicated because I don't think they'd have to go forward. They could just go back, if I'm not mistaken. There's also taking this now because I've moved on. That's my only check in the position, so I've moved on to captures. I could take the h-pawn now. If they took back, then I could take the g-pawn with check. They could block with the rook. My queen would be hanging. Well, let me think about this for a moment. Are there any other captures? There's a threat. I can move my rook over here to threaten their queen. Then their queen can just take this pawn here, or check me. Well, I'm not seeing it. Maybe one of you has seen the answer here already. I don't see it. I have considered a couple of other things that just floated into my head and out before I could mention them while I was talking about the other stuff, because most people, I assume your brain works a little bit faster than your mouth does. Even those people who speak very quickly, which I usually don't. But I considered there's this, which opens up my queen to an attack. Also, in that case, I think they could put their rook here. Well, they wouldn't because both our queens are undefended. So if I moved this pawn forward, either with a capture or just moving it forward, I think they could just take my queen. Now, if I moved... Wait, maybe that's it. Maybe it's f6. Because when we talked earlier about the rooks coming through this way, the king could just move up. But if that pawn is forward, then that king can't move up. So let's think about this for a second. Their queen is undefended, and that might be one of the keys to this puzzle, one of the clues that helps me solve it. Because if they took my queen at that point, which I assume that they would, but then I don't have a check just yet. Okay, so what if it's this check first? They take back with the pawn, then I move that pawn forward. Well, then they could just take it. But I would still have this check. They would come forward. I would have another check. They would have to come forward again because neither my queen or pawn would be there anymore. And then I could come back, but then they could go back. And then I could come up, and then they could go back. And then if I checked them, they could go around their rook, and they'd be fine. Or pawn capturing, or pawn moving forward, or queen capturing. Those are my four candidate moves, but they all look like they fail, so I think there might be something else that I just don't see. I could go through every piece here. This pawn can't move. If this pawn moves forward, they're going to take it and have a passed pawn. If this pawn moves forward twice, they could take it with en passant and have a passed pawn 2 squares from promotion. This pawn could move forward, which protects my queen in the event of this. Okay, so maybe I should have considered that. I can move my king, but only a couple of squares. One of those, 4 squares. I don't know. I'm just going to go with the queen sacrifice because I have no idea what to do. All of the moves that I've thought of looked bad. And I know that on Lichess, if there's a queen sacrifice available, it's almost always the right answer. I don't think that's true nearly as often here on chess.com, but I'm going to take the pawn. Yeah, that's wrong. I figured it would be. We're going to go to the analysis board. Does that show up? The opponent took the knight, which gave us a huge advantage, but only if we take here with the rook. Okay, but why wouldn't they take back with the pawn? Oh, they wouldn't take back with the pawn because we would take back with our queen, and then they'd have to go over there and it would be mate. So they'd have to play rook to g7, and we would just take that. Did I even consider that? Let's go back here and retry this puzzle. I don't think I even considered, maybe very early in my deliberations, I considered that, but why did I discount it? Well, because now it seems obvious to just take the rook. Oh, that would have been the end of the puzzle. And now they get out of check here, and then what? Oh, and then we'd have mate down there on e7. And if they got on the corner, we'd have mate. Now, wait, the analysis board didn't have mate. The analysis board had plus 30 after the opponent played that. Was plus 11 now. Or, okay, now it's plus 30 if we take here. Plus 36 if they block. And then we take. It's plus 28. How is that not mate? Oh, it's not mate on e7 because their rook's guarding that. Okay, so they play king to f8. Then we would take this pawn. But now they have checks. We talked about their checks. Like queen to e5 check. Because I would go to, whoops, f1. I still have a mating. Okay, see, now I have a mating sequence. Backup one. Plus 33. But if they play their best move, which is plus 33, that's e5, right? Suddenly it says I have mate in 17 if I go king to f2, and I have mate in 18 if I play king to f1. But if I play king to d1 to get out of check, then it's only plus 33 again. What about d2 or d3? Are those also bad? I mean, I like d1 because it allows me to run over here, but maybe that's bad. But f2 is definitely better. Now they're going to check, like I said, on d4. And then I go to g2. Wait, okay, because they can't check there. Okay. Now I have mate in 7. And their best move is to throw away the queen for the rook. Second best move is to check here, and I'll take with my queen. Okay, well, I've spent enough time on that puzzle. I will go to the next one. Is it doing the thing where it gives me an easy win because I just failed? Because that's mate, right? Rook to f4 is checkmate. It's protected by my pawn, so the king can't take it. My pawn's guarding that square. This pawn's guarding this square. My rook would be hitting the pawn, so they couldn't take there. Mate in 1. It did. It gave me a lower rated puzzle because I just failed one. Well, that was nice. Interesting. If I take the queen with check, they'll take back with the knight, right? What if I put my rook on f3, which would pin their knight to their king, pin their queen to their king, I should say, protected by my queen. Then they couldn't take my queen because their queen would be pinned. I think at that point their best move would be to take my queen, and I would take their queen. But then they would have these 3 pieces for my queen. But they would be in check at that point. So they would have to move out of check, and then maybe I would have a shot at winning one of their other pieces. Is that what the thing is? I don't know, but that would help a lot in this situation because currently I'm down 2 minor pieces. But if I go up this exchange, then I have a queen for a rook and 2 minor pieces. So they would still be ahead on point or on material value. So is there something else? My only checks look like they fail pretty hard. I don't have a check down here. Down here. I might fail 2 in a row, but I think my only saving move here is rook to f3. But I was wrong. Okay, well, let's go to the analysis board. Well, I see it now. I should have gone through my checklist. Checks, captures, and threats. I have this check right here, which picks off one of those minor pieces and leaves them very few options. Leaves them only 2 options, each of which I would then get the bishop. It says that they would probably drop back one, and then I would take the bishop. Then they would have to go over here, where it says I would check again, and their queen would block at that point. Yeah, I should have gone through my checklist. I think if I had gone through the checklist, I would have seen this as a check. I didn't look at all the checks. I looked at a couple of checks over here, but why didn't I see that one? I didn't keep going. Oh, and the puzzle would have stopped right there. Wow. Well, I've gone past 30 minutes on my end, but I hate to leave on a down note like that. I should solve a couple of puzzles before I quit this video. Well, they have 2 queens. My opponent has 2 queens, and they're about to checkmate me. Fortunately, I have a check here. And the king can't escape because of this pawn. So they would have to block with something like the bishop, and I can't take it because of this. But I can check again over here. And that's not yet mate. It stopped one move before mate because they have to move over, and then I would go mate there. Why does the puzzle stop one move before checkmate? Somebody, if you know anybody that works at chess.com, or you're the kind of person that likes to write emails to support, I'm really curious about this. It happens a lot. This is a forced mate in one, and the puzzle stops. That's frustrating. Okay, well, let's do another one. Maybe it'll give me one more easy one. Maybe not. Oh, wow. Oh, it's a middle game puzzle. I usually fail these. Well, I'm not in check, so I have the opportunity to check them, which I like. They'll take with their rook, and then their rook will be pinned. So I will checkmate with my rook down on the back. Think that's right? I think it's the queen, because if I do with the bishop first, they don't have to take. They can just move over. But if I take with my queen first, and they just move over, then I take the rook and it's mate immediately. So I think I take with my queen. Once the rook takes, it's pinned, and they don't have any way to block that check. Okay, I am higher. It looks like, wait, right there, it doesn't say what rating I got up to on that high point. Did I beat it? I don't think I did. It's pretty close. Should I do one more? Oh, I'm not a gambling person, but I am going to do one more just because I like to have a gradual increase on these things. Let's see. Is it checking in the corner? I don't think. Oh, wait. My rook's back there. It might just be this because they can't block that. Wait, is that mate in one? They can't move over because once my queen's out of the way, my bishop will be guarding those squares. My queen will be guarding those squares. I think that's mate in one. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's higher than the last high point in my little graph there. So I made some progress today, and you saw of the two that I missed, the first one, let me make sure I'm talking about these correctly. Yeah, the first one I did understand. It was the one where I had to take on g6 with the rook, and I'm not sure why I didn't consider it. And the other one was the one where I just didn't go through my checklist. That's why the checks, captures, and threats checklist is so important. And as you saw, as soon as I deviated from my checklist, I failed. I think the problem with the first one that I failed is that there were several possibilities, and they all seemed really complicated, except for that one. I don't know why I didn't consider that one. That's my afternoon, folks. Thank you for spending your time here. Hopefully you learned something, or at least had a good laugh at me failing. And I'll see you next time.